everyone. My name is Vuyelwa Mantyi. We're in conversation with Unathi Kapa. The author of Whawha was here, a memoir that was launched, I think, 1st of October, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it November?
Round about there.
Okay,
it was October. It was October, yes.
Oh, so it was, I remember because I actually did like a happy publication day thing, I think for you, and it was like a 1st October thing. So yes, the book that was launched 1st October. It's an amazing book. It has many threads, many themes to it. And I think we will cover only some of them in our conversation today. In previous interviews that Unathi has done, whether it was with Tsebisa or Dima or Linda, they talked about that the work could be more expansive. There might be more books, there might be more this, because to deal with everything that the book covers, we would need possibly more than what we're going to have now in terms of time. So just housekeeping, the book is available on Amazon. We had talked previously, Unathi, about how it would be cool if people would use Amazon Smile so that even as they buy the books, they can be supporting any charity of their choice. So if you go on Amazon and you look for Amazon Smile, you can go on there. It's at no extra cost to you, but it just helps in that Amazon would then give a fraction of whatever the cost of the book is. Also, you can order like a physical copy from Unathi directly on whawwashere@gmail.com. You can go into the website as well that has the book, that has how you can order it, as well as snippets of some of the different virtual tours. I think even long versions of some of them are also on the website, and the website is www.unathik.co.za. Okay, that's my intro. I was telling Unathi before that I was so nervous and I still a bit am so. She's a guru at this point because she's had so many of these conversations. So welcome, Unathi. As you said, we'll be having the conversations that we normally have when it's just you and me. Although we're noting where it'll be in terms of the different platforms, I think there is that little tinge of a little nervousness from my part. But whether you're always your calm self, so I
try.
It's great to have this conversation with you today. We'll see how long it is and where it takes us. So let me just dive right into my very first question that I have for you. So I wanted to find out, in terms of writing the book, like, how did it feel like to be in conversation and channel your younger selves while you were writing?
Oh man. All right. We're getting straight into it. Yes. Hello, V. Hello, everybody. Oh gosh. Firstly, thank you, V, for the opportunity. I'm gonna thank you for the question, just now, but I wanted to thank you first for the opportunity to have this conversation here, because we've had plenty of conversations behind the scenes. You've been a good sister friend to me, for many, many years, for about 20 years now. And I appreciate that we get to be on this stage together. That's what I'm gonna call it, just to present Whawha was here to the world. And yes, it's been a process. It's been quite a process writing this book and bringing this girl's story, to so many people, and to see the book in your hands is unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable because another journey, what it's been like. You know that there have been moments where I've said, okay, I'm abandoning this whole thing. That's it, because I felt like when it comes to writing a book, unlike blogging, which is something that I've been doing for many years, and I felt comfortable in blogging, you know, on social media or WordPress, you know, various platforms that one is able to do that. And I did that for a while. And then when I decided to go on the journey of writing the book, it felt different because for me, book writing has always been about the craft of writing, respecting the craft of writing. And for me, it's not something that you handle with, you know, you handle lightly. It's not something that you do for the sake of, I have a book or I have published a book. So even during my journey of writing, there were times when I felt that words fail me, you know, in telling this story. Even when people would tell me that we enjoy your writing, you know, from the other stuff that I'd written, you know, the poetry, the blogging, and the short story that I also shared at some point, you know, with an audience on social media. But when it came to, you now have to write a memoir, the challenge there was, first of all, it is as though you are going to be stripping in public because it's personal. This is a very personal journey. It is, it requires of you to be absolutely genuine and honest and vulnerable. And it also requires of you to write well. You know, I think it's important that we also bring that into the equation. And also because I wasn't dictating the story to somebody else so that they could ghost write for me or anything like that. I was writing this story myself. And it took many years because, as I've mentioned, there were periods when I would be like, okay, that's it, I'm not doing this anymore. And I would actually announce it as well to my own people and say, you know, I started on this journey, this is too much, that's it. But eventually I got to a point now during the COVID-19 lockdown period, you know, and everything that has come with that. I don't know what came upon me, but I felt as though my younger self was demanding of me to tell this story now, and in her own words, you know. And I felt as though you said my younger selves, and I appreciate that so much because there's been an evolution of myself that has led to this adult version. So I felt like that girl was really knocking hard on my door to say, you have to do this for us, you have to do this for us. And I decided to do it at this stage. But it's been a journey. It's really been a challenging journey at that.
I remember those announcements very well, and there were parts of me where I thought, no, your job is a friend and your job is a cheerleader. So if she says she's stopping, you're supposed to say, no, carry on.
Yes.
So then another part of me would say, no, you must be where Unathi is. So if she's saying she's stopping, you must say, okay, you're sure, stop, you know,
yes.
enjoy whatever you are in now, you know, and not like, no,
right.
You have to. And I think what you said sort of ties into my next question. You know, one of my, if not my favorite author in the whole world,
yes,
Toni Morrison, like when she was asked about her process of writing, she would talk about how the different characters would come to her and how some of them would talk nonstop and she'd had to like tell them to just shut up. So I wanted to find out, was there a time where like maybe 6-year-old, 9-year-old, 13-year-old, 20-year-old Unathi was like wanting to take over the memoir? Where you had to say, okay, no, we are done.
It's not your turn.
And it's someone else's turn now.
Yes.
And because obviously, like I said earlier, there's so much that would have been left, I would say, on the cutting room floor in order to actually finally have the book final. So were there any, did you experience any of that where different aspects of Unathi would be like, no, let's go deeper here. And you'd be like, no, this is how far I want to go with you, Unathi, 9-year-old on this one. Until we got to the memoir.
Oh man, what a beautiful question. Oh gosh, V. All right. Yes.
I was prepared. Yes, I had to prepare.
Oh gosh, you're prepared. That's so, oh gosh, that's awesome. All right. Which Unathi wanted to take over, or at any point wanted to be the voice? I think when I was writing, okay, let me backtrack a little bit, V, because there were previous manuscripts that I wrote of this book before I got to this final one, which is completely different from those two, which were longer, which were more detailed. There was a lot going on there. And I felt that in those versions, the older Unathi wanted to be the one who tells the story on behalf of the child version. She was the one who was now, narrating and feeling the responsibility to represent the younger version of herself, because in my younger years, I was very quiet. I hardly expressed my thoughts or emotions. I was just a child who did as she was told, mostly. And even while writing those two manuscripts, my child self did not show up. It was purely my adult self telling the story. And when I picked up the story again this year in 2021, it was as though the young Unathi pushed the old Unathi out of the way and said, this is my story to tell. And it is with this version that I felt that her voice came through strongly in a way that I had never anticipated, because I felt as though that child had gathered the courage to be the one presenting her side of the story in a way that would still represent my full journey, but still as though she is the one who is telling the story from beginning to end. So there were times when I felt that she wanted to continue, even when it wasn't her turn to speak, because I had to calm her down because there are 3 parts in this book. And part 1 is very much narrated by, that younger, the preteen narrates her story. And then there comes a time when she has to hand over the baton to, the next version. And that next version is hesitant to pick up the pen. She's like, I'm not doing that. You keep talking. I'm not about that life. And this was a struggle at that point, because it was as though this middle Unathi truly felt daunted at the prospect of having to tell that version of her story. And I found this to be quite, it was perplexing me at that point, because the story wanted so badly to be told. And it's like imploring a child and, trying to appeal to this child from all angles. Coaxing, yes, that we have to do this. We've started with the journey. We must do this thing. And eventually, that part of the story, also came about and became what it is now in the book, which is the part 2 of the story. And then part 3, the other version comes through, and now she's like, yes, it's finally my turn. I wanted to do this all along, and you two have been holding me up. Now is my time. And she does this in her own way. So these 3 characters within a character, I believe, really had, respectively, they had their own stories to tell, although it's one story at the end. But that younger self, the youngest version, was the one who really felt strongly that she wanted to tell the tale. Yes.
Your answer is I'm now getting more questions from your answer, but I'm gonna reserve the question I have about part 2, the middle Unathi, for I'm gonna link it to another question a bit later on. But I think it just talks to how we are not like one-dimensional beings. That there are different expressions of ourselves as we grow, and as we come into our own. And I had that sense that the book does touch on that. I was just so curious in terms of the process, but with their voices that had to be hushed and set down. So that clears that up. You talked earlier about the respect for the craft that you have of writing. I do know from the benefit of proximity to you that you've recently made contact with one of your literary heroes. And find out like how does that feel like? Most people say, you mustn't meet your heroes, because you may have a different picture of how people actually present and how they actually are. I don't know if you want to name the person, but my question was very vague in that it would be like, how does that feel like? It's up to you if you want to name the person.
Oh gosh, no, at this stage, let me not name them, but I do believe that along this journey, I will most certainly, mention their name. But this has been, I believe that this author is the reason why I have actually come to the point of publishing a book, because this is somebody who influenced me at a time when I was coming out of university, not interested in books at this time, because I've just completed my postgraduate studies and I think I was just at home for the holidays, but I had just gone to a music store, bookstore, and I happened to stumble upon this book that touched me so much, written by this author that you're mentioning, V. And to have the opportunity to actually connect with this person at this time after publishing my own book and to experience them as a human being, and to be able to separate them from their craft, because I didn't know what to expect. Do I have to speak to this person in a certain way? What do literati people speak like? Because I don't want to be like, oh, Unathi from such and such a place. I just wanted to connect. And also there's a significant age gap. So I wanted to, to have a sense of respect and the appropriate approach to this person as well. But to be welcomed so warmly by somebody whose heart was open not only to me, but to the book itself. Because I was really, I had sent the book to her in trepidation, because I felt like I'm submitting a book to my headmaster, not even my class teacher, but the headmaster, who's going to get to scrutinize it and then present me with, whatever mark they think is appropriate for the work. But to have the kind of reception and response that I've had from her has really been humbling, V. It's been humbling, and it's still unbelievable to me. And I think it has brought me a sense of, I believe in community. You will know this about me, because we are who we are to each other, that I have a sense of deep respect for my roots as a village girl. And amongst different kinds of people. And I was raised to respect all people, across class, across the different spectrums of life, and to be able to present that version of myself during this journey has been important to me. That yes, I've written a book. yes, I will possibly, publish more, but I want to be a human being to other human beings. And what this author has done for me is to confirm that what I am seeking and what I'm desiring is possible. And it's actually how things ought to be. That whether you have published 20 or 50 books, you must still be relatable and approachable. So it's really been once again, I'll say a humbling experience, V. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what else it's going to bring, because this person has also, been open to not mentoring me necessarily, but just being a loving and kind human being that we just have. I don't know what has happened here, but it's like we just had an immediate rapport, and we connected deeply. And yeah, I've appreciated that as well, as part of this journey. Yes.
I think what you just said now, first of all, I'm still so jealous. Like all my all my literary icons are sort of like passing on to the next world, and I'm like, oh, Unathi gets a chance to actually
man,
be in her presence. And just I just want to pick up on what you just said about like an instant rapport. I'm gonna read a bit from the book. I was saying it to Unathi, I was trying to find words to, how can I talk about the book? And I thought, well, I had the singular pleasure to be asked to write the foreword to the book. So,
yes.
So I said, no, but I can always refer to the other words that I've always said. But in terms of what you just said about the rapport that you built, there's a part here where I say, I can't pinpoint the exact moment that I met my friend. Her effect is that of seamlessly interweaving into one's life in the most comfortable and familiar way. So I thought maybe there was that sort of experience between you and her as well. So like, who have been your other influences in terms of writing and the craft? Like who have you read, looked up to, who has influenced the way that you show up as a writer?
Sure. Oh, V. There's been numerous writers who have influenced me, and I can think of the late Maya Angelou as one person who's been really instrumental in how I tell stories, not just in the craft itself, but how, because I've always desired to not only paint, a picture, but to actually place you in the experience. When I tell the story, and her work has done that for me, and especially as a memoirist herself. In writing my memoir, I think, although obviously I wouldn't venture so far as to say that we have similar writing styles or anything like that, but she has influenced me to tell my story in my own way, and in a way that is relatable to anybody, across the board. Anybody who would pick up my book would be able to read it, from beginning to end, as long as they have the comprehension of the English language and are literate. So that's what I wanted, because although there's some Xhosa, words here and there, it's peppered with my home language, but it's primarily written in English. And what I've loved about Maya Angelou's work is that here's a lady who is based in the United States, she writes of her own life, yet you can pick up her book and enter her world. And it's as though you are walking with her on her journey. And she does not write in a way that intimidates you or makes you, or that alienates you even. She's so, she writes for the world, I believe. Or she wrote for the world, rather, because she's no longer with us, but her work is still very much with us. And this is what I love as well about art and writing, because your work outlives you. And this is the beauty of what we do as storytellers. If our work is, please give me a beautiful English word, V, because you are good with this stuff. That's what I know about you. You know, to keep this, or to preserve it, to preserve the work, and to keep it in its this is another thing, that art becomes accessible to all. I'm not one for you know, being of art being available to an exclusive club, you know, or only if you go to a museum, you'll be able to see these artifacts. If you go to such and such a place, you'll be able to read Unathi's book. I don't want the words that I write to be for a select few, because I believe that they are for a far wider audience. I believe that my story, if we are to go back to Whawha was here, my story is for us all. So there's no point in me writing a book that needs to be decoded, you know, linguistically before people can actually understand it. So it became important for me that it becomes digestible writing, and also just easy. And that's what Maya Angelou's storytelling taught me. That our books must be, you know, easily read, so to speak, not easily written, because I don't believe that the craft of writing can be said to be easy for anybody who presents the you know, the kind of work that would touch the world. But certainly it must be something that anybody can pick up and be able to at least engage. Yes.
And I think we've had that discussion even about academic writing. We've talked about that, to say,
yes,
people with your masters, your PhDs, bring this new knowledge that you've created. Let us engage with it, make it accessible to people,
right,
so that they can obviously do with it what they will, but at least they have the ability to engage with it.
right.
So you've talked about channeling the different Unathis. We've talked about the craft of writing, and just touching a bit on academia. I had a friend of mine who said even writing a PhD should change you. Like you can't be the same person who started.
Yes.
And you know, we've seen people cutting off their dreads to mark that I'm truly a new person. So I wanted to find out, writing the book, having it in print and it's done.
Yes.
Has it changed you in any way? If it has, how has it changed the version this Unathi now that we use?
Yes. Oh, has it changed me in any way? It has changed me, V, in that I no longer approach writing with the same casual, you know, manner that I did previously. I truly just used to be somebody who would just write for the sake of it. I wouldn't be too bothered about form or about, you know, whether I've really dotted all my I's or crossed my T's. I think it was a form of rebellion on my part, because I felt that, you know, grammar can be so rigid. Why does it have to be like this? And I was just writing, you know, casually. Not in a sloppy manner necessarily, but I wasn't too concerned about who's going to consume this, you know, on the other end, or how are they going to engage with it. And in terms of an art form, it was always just, I'm just writing. But writing a book has taken me to a different element altogether, because now when somebody tells me I've finished reading the book, and then they give me their honest, you know, feedback or reflections on it, I have a deep respect for people who do this, you know, on a regular or ongoing basis. Because for me, I was actually thinking after writing this book, maybe this is going to be a once-off thing. You know, this is done. I just wanted to tell my story and that's it. And I was thinking to myself that that's all I need to do. And then when people would come back and say to me, so what's next? So that told me that perhaps I have done some justice, you know, not only to the story, but just the artistic presentation of this work. And that has been humbling for me. Yes, it has transformed me in the sense that it has encouraged me to be even more, to even be more respectful of the craft, to respect not the establishment of literature necessarily, but to respect the reader, to respect somebody who takes the time to open up your book, to go through it, and to realize that this is, if you're going to touch humanity, because with our words, when they enter people's, you know, being, you have some kind of influence in somebody's own, not only mental journey, but their overall being. They will not be the same after reading your book, let alone will I be the same after writing the book. But they will not be the same. And this has become so important to me, and as an encouragement as well for whatever I do next, to do even better. Because with this particular book, I had some help with the previous manuscripts. I had a lot of help, you know, with just getting it to be what a book should look like. But with this one, it was very much, it was almost a solo journey with this final version. And the pride that I've taken in that and how it has changed me is to believe in myself more as a writer, as a storyteller, and also to take the responsibility very seriously. Yes.
Oh, and yeah, you know, I'm in terms of just the craft and in the process of writing itself. I think I may have said this to you. I definitely have said it to my daughters, that you are like a possibility model for me, you know, that there is a final product that actually came out and became published. So like you said, not just changing you, but changing the people around you. And now just to pick on some of the specific themes that are in the book, particularly around what family is, and the path some people have had to take, and I think we've seen it in our society come through in different ways, whether there's disagreements about religious affiliation in families, whether there's been disagreements in terms of the conception of gender in families, where some people unfortunately have been disowned by their families merely for expressing who they believe that they are. So your book made me think around the concept of family of origin, and like someone's own curated community of care around themselves. So my question, or just a reflection on what we should be mindful of as friends who enter each other's orbits in this life. You know, I don't believe in coincidences. You know, I believe we meet the people that we're meant to meet. So within that context of just how we should be mindful, and how could we create or approximate a caring community outside of our family, like your normal family structure or family of origin, that encompasses the people that we come across, mainly because, like I said earlier, people come from different backgrounds, you know,
Yes.
and I think especially as we're having this conversation, it's on the 24th of December in South Africa, where normally
Yes.
people are, oh, are you going home? Yes, I'm going home. I'm looking forward to be with this and this. And for some people, that's not the experience that they actually have. So maybe concretely, my question is, for the friends that we meet, what should
Yes.
we be mindful of in terms of people's origin and how we show up for them in a way that is caring? Yeah.
Oh, all right. All right. Gosh, this book is obviously a story on family.
Yes.
There's a lot. That's the essence: identity, belonging, family. And a lot of people at this time, as you say, V, because it's around Christmas, and the question, are you going home, comes up a lot in South Africa, because a lot of people who are based, in metropolitan areas, maybe have families back in the, in the rural areas and such. And so they would, there would be an exodus of sorts from the cities to those parts to reunite with family and just have, the spirit of Christmas for those who celebrate it. And the question was posed to me actually recently by a friend, and this is after publishing this book. And I had to, take a step back and think before I could answer her question, because her assumption was that I had somewhere to go. I had a home to go to at this time. I certainly have family, but the sense of home, which somebody would understand by reading the book, why I would need to deliberate on a sense of home for myself at this stage, it was really a wake-up call to me, that this is something I need to establish strongly for myself. Where is home? Where is home, and who is family to you? There's bloodkin, and then there's family by, association, and there's family that you refer to your own community of people that you have met along life's journey and decided that these are your people. And what do we do when we come across people who we eventually come to not only be in some close proximity with, but these are people that we bear our hearts with. These are people that walk the tough paths in our lives with us. And how do we relate? How do we give them a safe space to exist? I think the bottom line, V, is just pure love and acceptance of people as human beings, just as a breathing human being. If you walk through the door, I don't know what your religious affiliation is. I don't know what your sexual orientation is. There are certain things I can't assume about you as you're walking through the door, and I must treat you with the dignity, that you are like, you are me, you are a human being like me. There's in our culture, it is often said, so-and-so, we would say, Vuyelwa ngumuntu ke khona, which is to say, Vuyelwa is so humane. She's such a human being, which is not to say we are praising you for who you are, but for how you treat other human beings. And I think it's so important that even in friendships, even in how we carry out our lives, as colleagues, as acquaintances, if we stick to that foundation, I think we would not be so encumbered with trying to dictate to people how they ought to carry out their own lives, because there's always going to be so much that we disagree on. And I think it's important to make choices around, what really affects you positively or otherwise in Vuyelwa's company. Does she pose any danger to you by choosing whatever it is that they've chosen for their lives, as long as there's no imposition from either side, I believe, in terms of choices, in terms of just how we choose to associate as people. I think it would really unburden us as a society if we just chose to mind our own business, truly mind our truly mind our own business, and just care and be loving and have an understanding that we live in a diverse world where everybody has a choice to practice whatever it is that they want to practice, and to not feel as though it's some kind of, you know, I don't know, as though I'm looking for a word that would best express the sense of you are not, it does not take anything away from me to just acknowledge that you truly are a human being. You are. That is never going to change. You are a human being. And yeah, I think that's what we need in our society currently, just pure love. It goes back to that simple message from the song, what the world needs now is love. It really is. It's as simple as that.
That's actually one of my favorite songs that I've got like on loop on my Spotify, like any given day if I'm in the car, and that song will come up. It's just part of the songs that do come up. You know, for every year I always create like I create like a Spotify playlist, and I give it the name of that year. So I'll have like a 2021, and whatever song moves me, I'll add it onto that list. By the way, there's a lot of reflection on song and music in the book,
yes,
and its influence on Unathi's life. And in fact, there's a Spotify playlist. if you sort of want to approximate the soundtrack of Unathi's life, that you can you can click through to and just listen to. I think what you said about community and love is just reminding me of, I just recently finished a book by Bell Hooks, the late Bell Hooks. Yes. Title is All About Love, and you know, I saw other people's reviews as well after I read it, talk about how you could almost highlight every single sentence in that book, you know. And then there's this one, her whole thing in that book is about having love as an ethic that we should all have, and expanding that love to all the people that we come across. And that our dealings, she even quotes, I think, Deepak Chopra, where he says love is as strong as gravity, like, and it's as that powerful, and that if we would have it as, say, the central organizing principle of our lives, then our interactions with other people would be touched by that love. Which links me to a question that I had, but it was not like on the list now, but let me bring it now.
All right.
There's a part in the book, and I think it's the part that I would say brought tears to my eyes.
Oh man, okay.
I hope they don't come now, but I'll read a bit of it. It's the older Unathi. You're in conversation with your mother, the mother that raised you, and she's talking about her experience with infertility. All right. So prior to that piece, to that passage, you talk about how sometimes the words that I said loosely, how they impact on people who are dealing with issues like that. You mentioned this phrase that you know, words like that. Anyway, the passage begins, look, she quickly regains her composure, as though there is more that she needs to let off her chest at this moment and not later. She lets on how she came to raise the children she did not birth with data. My elder siblings, myself, and my little brother. It now begins to make even more sense why Kwaidisa and Lungisa, those are your elder siblings, call our father teacher, Tishala, instead of Tata. They came to know him gradually from a distance before moving permanently from their mothers to our shared home. Their relationship seems to spell this. It's neither liquid nor taut, as though of an indeterminate status. So when I read that and thinking about how maybe in our generation, the conversations about adoption, the conversations about IVF to deal with infertility, the conversations about surrogacy. I mean, there's the people who have made their birth announcement, oh, we welcomed our little boy, and maybe like several months later, they'll say, oh, by the way, we would like to thank Anita. If it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have this family because she was our surrogate. And for me, because that conversation is only now coming up, for me, sometimes when that comes up, I'm like, whoa, what do you mean?
Yes, what do you mean? Yes.
So just in terms of the different family configurations that are out there and how we, like you always say, make space in our lives for those types of conversations. I was reminded as I was reading this and just preparing the question about something that my mother said that stuck with me. She had what's called a latlamiki. I mean, I was 30 years old, and then my mother was pregnant, and it was a tough time for me at that time.
Oh, man.
What happened? But you know, she would buy these baby magazines and they would have this sticker, like different issues of the magazine would have this baby on board sticker. So I remember saying to my mom, oh, then let's put this on the car. And then my mother said, I will never do that. I don't believe in doing that. And I said, but why? And she said, because there are people who are struggling to have babies. And for her to have that on her sticker, she thought about the people who would actually be looking at that sticker, and people she doesn't even know, but who would be looking at that sticker and be triggered maybe because of the challenges that they're going through. So I think that talks a lot to that love as an ethic that guides how you even, I mean, that's a very, in the scheme of things, a simple choice to make whether or not to put a sticker on a car or not, you know?
Right.
And sometimes I think because of our fixation, Mandicho, as a culture with individualism, but what I want to do and how it feels for me. And, you know, of course, like you said, we no one wants to put anyone in a straitjacket in terms of their lives and how they express it. But when you said that about just being mindful and what the book talks about in terms of some of those, those words were specifically meant to harm, meant to cut, but there are things that we may be doing that are that seem, you know, on the surface, it's like, no, but I mean, this is just a thing. It's just a sticker, you know, there's no right and wrong to it, but that may affect some people and how we just have to be present, I guess, in how we move and how even our most innocent actions, you know, especially I think with the reality that we have in terms of some of the fractures in families and some of the challenges that people may be dealing with. So after that long, I said that more you than me, but you just touched on something that I just felt it just linked to one of the questions. And so now back to what you said about the transcendent nature of culture across space and across time. As I mentioned earlier, one of my icons is bell hooks. I'll say
yes.
I don't believe people die and that's it. So
yes, that's
bell
it.
hooks and one of the things that she has said, one of her famous quotes has been that we can never have too many words from Black women. We can never have too much said by Black women. And I was reminded of this quote by Ebony Genismo. Actually, when I was writing this question, I was like, no, I have to cite, you know how she is about people
citing.
Must be cited.
Yes, yes, yes.
So she just hopped on a live on IG, just talking about the passing of Belle and the fact that she lives on. She lives on in all the people who have been touched by her work and by her life. So
right.
she be gone. In fact, I saw like a tweet from one of my favorite rabbis, and she made the point to say, if you've ever used the word marginalized, that's bell hooks. She's the one who brought that into the lexicon of the world.
Oh my goodness.
So I know you don't want to speak for people, but one of the threads that I love in the book is the feminist, womanist perspective, especially of women in the village.
Yes.
So the women from your village, from Engojini, I think we talked about whether we'll be naming things.
Their home village, yes.
From
yes.
Say in the 80s, sort of they come alive in your book. You reference them, and they are caring for their families in their selflessness. There's a very comical, I'll say, take in the book about how the men, or in your experience with your child eyes, you'd see all the men, guzzling down,
Yes. soda, cold drink.
Soda, to just quench them and to make sure that by the time they get home, they are well sated. But the women don't take that time. They get to it. They get to their families and enjoying those life's little pleasures within their families. So just a reflection from you in terms of, I'll say I don't wanna phrase it from only a positive perspective, but just the humanity of the women of the village in terms of how they show up, who they are, the choices that they make for their lives, for their families. I note that you've said before that you were introduced to feminism without it being said, okay, now let's talk about feminism, but by who your mother was and how she carried herself. And I'm sure there are other stories. So even beyond what is reflected on the book, just a reflection from your perspective about feminism and women from a rural space, noting that sometimes there's this narrative that women in rural spaces are under siege, they don't have agency, they are oppressed or in an oppressive situation, and not to say that there may not be cases like that, but I would like to have like a balance of stories, as Uchino Achebe would say, about women from a village. So not to say that you're speaking for them, but just from your own experiences of womanhood in that village setting.
Oh, all right. So I'm going to make reference to the village setting that I grew up in, because I have long, left the village. I don't want to speak as though I'm currently, still residing there and experiencing that context now. I think it's close to 20 years now that I've not lived at my home village. But during my upbringing, my younger years, my mother and her friends were very peculiar to me, because they were this group of women that had this agency about, just existing, yes, within their marriages, because these were married women, but there was this strong, distinct sense of self with each of them. My mother and her friend, who in my book I call Azande's mom, and Azande is my best friend in the book. These two women, just in how they carried out their lives in front of our eyes as children, suggested to me that there was so much more to being a woman than being a homemaker. It also suggested to me that you could do both, and you could enjoy both, actually, because my mom loved her husband and showed it, my mom, yes, cooked for my father, but my father also cooked for us. It wasn't a matter of she now, after working at the shop the whole day, she had to come to the house and cook, and they actually got outside help as well, so that her life would not just be about, being a wife who has to serve her husband, at every beck and call, but it was this beautiful partnership that they had, this mindful partnership that they had as well, because my father at times, would be traveling to different places. And when he arrived home, because he's tired, he's been, wherever he has been, my mother would be so attentive, not only to his needs, to ensuring that he's fed and all of that, but in how she conducted conversations with him. And I think this is where I got to have an appreciation of conversation, because it wasn't just talking, it was as though these people can really, it was like a dance of sorts. Yes. And within that, my mother was still this force in the house. She was, she 1 minute she'd be carrying a tray, and the next, my mother is being this person who was like, Dada, we need to do A and B and C, and that means that you need to do A, B, and C. And my mother's voice in my family, not just our nuclear family, but in our extended family, in our community, was always heard so loudly. But also she was this woman who wanted to make sure that her husband had clean clothes, while my father at the same time was this man who could knead dough and be sitting, on a bench somewhere. So it was a beautiful partnership for me to witness, which told me that what I had seen in other contexts was not necessarily, the script for all women, that there was an alternative. And also because I had heard, of situations where women would be, abused physically and such, which is something I never witnessed in my home. And there was never even a hint that my father would venture that far. But I think it's also because my mother was also the kind of woman who was known in our village, even, with men across the board, that you don't mess with that woman. You don't. And that's the spirit, that was her aura. And I think that experiencing her and the women around her, because it was not just about my home now, it was about the possibilities beyond. And she and a group of other business people in our district had formed imigalelo, and they would meet on a monthly basis to just have these stokvel gatherings, where money flowed, I would see, how they would count. And I need to mention this because it's important. This is a village context. These are all villages in our district, and these village-based business people are able to exchange tens of thousands of rands in one night, and this money is going to one home this month, it's going to another home the next, and they are helping each other sustain their businesses. And these are predominantly women. And it was so important for me to witness that and to see them sending their children to all sorts of schools. And when, the dawn of democracy came and these opportunities became available that you can now send your children to these Model C schools, to private schools, they were able to do that. And these are from businesses that had been started in the 70s and the 80s, when it was still apartheid time, from these women. And this is not to say that, that the men were not involved. They certainly were, but the people that I saw charging forward were these ladies, because I went to these places with my mother and the kinds of conversations that they had, because as a quiet child, I could just disappear while I'm in the room. So I would hear things and I would see things, and that painted for me so many possibilities. So I saw that, and also in homes where there was not necessarily, the money aspect, where economically there were some challenges. There were homes where the men would be in the cities, your Joburg or your Cape Town or wherever, and the woman is left behind to make this home a home by herself. The husband will probably come back in December or the next December. This woman is raising the children. And I'm going to make mention of one woman who ended up having this flock of, various livestock, and this husband would come back from Joburg, and he's the one who, when coming to our shop, would be taking out money from his pocket, counting the money. And my mother, after this man leaves, would be like, yeah, it's because of that woman. She does great work. That money is from those sheep that this woman has been looking after the whole year. So there were those elements where you could see that our women were community builders. The women in our village were the people who ensured that village and their families had staying power. So it was important for me to witness that in a village context, especially when I left the village and I realized, oh my word, the world is a different place to what I thought it was. And to see how almost, miraculous that existence was in the context of apartheid. But yeah, we thrived against the odds, thanks to our mothers.